Oh my goodness. Supposedly I'm live. Let me make sure that I actually am. Hopefully this won't slow the internet down too much. Ah. Well, while I'm doing this, oh, okay. Says I'm live now. Let me click on the video. While I'm doing this, let me click on the video. Oh, yes, I'm live. um, Let me just say hi. I'm, man, I took a bit of a hiatus. I haven't published a video or uploaded a video since mid to late May, and that was because I have moved abroad. Sorry for the picture quality. I actually wanted to record this with my video camera, but I bought the camera in the US, and so it has the 3 plug thing going on. The battery is dead. So I need to use a transformer because electricity here in Chile is, I think, at 220 volts, so it's, or 240. It's double the power voltage or whatever of what we have in the US. And so I need to use a transformer to be able to plug in my camera and charge it. But I don't know where that is because we have just moved into our apartment here in Chile. And so everything is still in boxes and all of our clothes, well, probably like 60% or 60 to 70% of our clothes are still in suitcases, and we're still getting the apartment ready. So I didn't want to look through all that to try to find the transformer, to then charge my camera, to then finally get around to making this video. I want this video to go up right now. So I'm live, and that's why the picture quality sucks. But I'm here. I'm alive, by the way. I'm alive. I'm back. I guess I should go through first. I have a little cheat sheet here with my notes as far as what to talk about in this video. How I should go over first how the move went. Um, it was intense, but I actually felt very ready for it. If there's one big thing that the past 2 months and everything that had to happen in those 2 months has taught me, is that all of the hard, intense, deep shadow work that I was doing last year, during the second half of last year and into the very beginning of this year, is paid off. I'm seeing results, and that's such a beautiful thing when you see the results of shadow work, because coming into moving abroad, coming into this process and the particular circumstances behind why we had to move abroad, it wasn't 100% our choice to do this. So I was afraid. I didn't trust myself to be able to emotionally handle it. And now here I am, like, feeling more confident and in my power than ever before in my life. And I knew coming into this that, of course, living not only in a different culture, in a different country, but also in a different hemisphere, because I went from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere, hence the winter clothes, right? I knew that this was going to change me forever. I'm not going to be the same person coming out of this as I was going into it. And that change is frightening, but it's also just filled with so much potential for growth and empowerment and discovery and rediscovery and redefining who I am. It's just like, man, I didn't know I had this in me. So now that a few people are watching, feel free to comment and chat. I can't be on here for too long because my computer battery only has about 60%. I don't know how long that's gonna last, so I'll try to make this fast, but go ahead and chat, say hi, ask me questions, and I'll see if I can get around to them. So many things have happened between the end of May to the end of July. So at the end of May, um, I had to fly to Boston to go to a conference. I was at the conference for third, fourth, right, 4.5 to 5 days. And the conference was wonderful. That was really when I started to see, like, oh shit, like my shadow work having to do with my lack of confidence in myself and all the anxieties and everything related to that. I was starting to see then the fruit of my labor. I was starting to see changes within myself and how I carried myself and how I interacted and networked with people and how I handled my presentation and how I handled talking to a university publisher that wanted to basically offer me a book deal, which is crazy because I haven't even written the dissertation yet. Like, anyway, I had a meeting with a university publisher. I won't name the university or anything, but that was insane. But that was also a huge confidence boost. Like, wow, someone is really interested in my research, and I might be able to graduate with a book deal by the end of this, which is crazy. Um, that came out of the blue. So that was a huge confidence boost. And then I flew back to Georgia on May 27th. And from May 27th to May 31st, we had to move out of our apartment. And so we had already for months, since January, we had been, I can think of the word in Spanish. That's another thing that's happening is I'm forgetting words in English. My brain is changing, y'all. That's what happens when you're forced to speak a language that's not your mother tongue. It starts to kind of take over and leak into the other half, you know. Anyway, we started getting rid of stuff. Clothing, furniture, books, unnecessary stuff for months leading up until the move. But we still had a lot of work to do. And so finally on May 31st, we left Georgia, which was really, really sad because that's been our home. I mean, we met each other in that town in Georgia. We got married in Georgia. Even though I was in Massachusetts for 3.5 years, I was only up there during the academic year, which meant I got to spend the summers and part of the winter break down in Georgia. So it's been my home since 2011. And so leaving it for good was hard. But then we drove to my parents' house in Kentucky. We kept some things. We kept some books that we knew that we needed to do research here. We kept our mattress and a chest, like a coffee table chest thing. And what other pieces? Oh, our desk, our big table that we used as a desk. Like that was basically the only furniture we kept. And boxes of some kitchen stuff, like some cast iron pans that were my grandmother's that I now own, that I knew, like, oh, we're not getting rid of these, we're keeping these, you know, in boxes. And we took it to my parents' house and they offered their basement to keep our shit. So, and then we were with my parents for about 3.5 weeks in Kentucky. They threw us a Hasta Luego USA party, and so we kind of decorated with Chilean flags and American flags and got a cake and invited people over. My aunt, who normally lives up in New York, and my uncle, they were down visiting, so I got to see them. And that was really nice. And so from Kentucky, we went to New Orleans because it's cheaper to fly to Latin America from New Orleans than Kentucky. And we were supposed to visit my sister, but my sister, she wasn't there. She lives there, but she was sent because of her job. She had to go to West Virginia for months. And that was really sad because that was a very last minute thing. So I didn't get to see my sister before leaving the country. But I got through it. We stayed at her house with my parents and got to meet her boyfriend, which was great. And then we flew from New Orleans to Santiago, Chile on June, right on the solstice. We left on June 21st and we arrived the morning of June 22nd. And so that was incredibly witchy and powerful for me I'm really glad I planned ahead and did that because we were leaving the United States at the peak of summer, the longest day with the most light from the sun in the US, in the northern hemisphere. And so the sun illuminates everything. And so if you think about that power of the light showing what you already know, what is already familiar, and then we, within 24 hours, do a 180 and go down to the southern hemisphere, and we find ourselves on the winter solstice, which is, the longest night, the most darkness, and darkness representing the unknown, but it's also that void of possibility. Everything's new, everything's fresh, everything can be created or reinvented in that space. And so it was incredibly powerful and witchy to do that. And I'm really glad we did on that particular set of days. um, so from then, from late June until late July, we stayed at my mother-in-law's house, which I might go into detail more in a future video, but that was really great. It was very healing to stay with her. It was hard at the beginning, and I'll talk about that in a future video, but um, it was a good time for me to actually live with and get to know my partner's family because I had met them once back in 2013 when we were here for like 3 weeks on vacation, just visiting. But it's different when you're living with someone, and have a lot more closeness and proximity to them. So I really got to know my mother-in-law and my brother-in-laws and their wives, and it was a good bonding time. And I've decided to take a break from my research and my work on my dissertation until tomorrow, until August 1st. So I had from June through July, I've had 2 months to just focus on this because I feel like if I tried to force myself to sit down to do research work through this craziness, I would have just broken down. It would just be too much on my plate for me to handle. So that was very wise on my part. Because moving to Chile, it's not just, starting from scratch. I mean, we arrived with, um, I think, how many suitcases? 6 suitcases we ended up bringing with us. Two of them just filled with books and nothing else. Um, and now we have an apartment and some furniture. And, I had to apply for a visa, una visa temporaria, or a temporary visa, um, here in Chile as the spouse of a Chilean citizen. Um, we've had to shop for health insurance and figure out my health insurance situation because by law, I have to have health insurance in order to still be a student affiliated with my university back in the US. And so it's just so much paperwork and so many trámites, as they call them, so many things to do, like a huge to-do list and a huge shopping list, setting up an apartment from scratch, setting up a life in another country from scratch. And so that is why, in a 14-minute nutshell, I have been gone from YouTube. And I'm sure you guys understand why. But I'm back. And so let me talk about my Witching Abroad series. Now, I definitely want to dive into this series, and I have some thoughts about what type of content I would like to see or I would like to make, and that includes an apartment tour once we finally get the apartment fully furnished and running. So that'll happen in the coming weeks, probably in September. I want to talk about the tarot decks I brought to Chile and why I chose those decks. Unfortunately, I'm so sad. Oh, I'm so sad. I had to leave like half of my tarot and oracle collection back in the US. Probably more than half. And it's not like I have a huge collection at all. I have probably no more than 15 to 20 decks total, but still leaving a good portion of that, like over half of them back in the US was so sad. Like the Mother Mary tarot, the Wild Unknowns spirit animal oracle, the Mother Mary oracle. That was so sad. But I brought some trusted powerful decks with me, so I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the crystals I brought with me to Chile, because I also left about 2/3 of my crystal collection back in the US, and that was really hard. Just the process of letting things go and leaving things behind and opening myself to new territories, possibilities, futures. I want to talk about that as well as part of my Witching Abroad series. Of course, hauls when I find my spots here in Santiago, my esoteric stores and witchy stores that I might find around here, which I've already started Googling for those, which is exciting. And any trips. I know we have friends here who like to go hiking, and they've invited us next weekend to go hiking in El Cajon de Maipo, which I think is like a lake near a mountain about an hour or so outside of Santiago. The only thing is it's wintertime. There's going to be lots of snow. We'll see how that goes. But whenever I go on trips like that, I also want to take you guys along and show you the beauty that is Chile. I mean, literally, I can look out the window from my kitchen window in my apartment, and I see the Andes mountain range. Like, that's insane. So if you guys, if you can think of any other content, any other videos that would fit within my Witching Abroad series, like anything about this experience for me, being new to Chile, new to the Southern Hemisphere, let me know below, comment below, and I'll see what I can do. Okay, now, talking about content, I want to talk a little bit before this video gets too long about upcoming content for August. Now that I'm jumping back, I'm back in the saddle, back on the horse, back in the game, right? So if you follow me on Instagram, or if you saw my poll that I recently did through the communities tab here, I did a poll allowing people to vote for the book that I'm going to read in August and then review at the end of the month. And so I want to make this a regular thing. I want to commit to reading at least one nonfiction and one fiction book just for me, just for my growth and pleasure and entertainment. And the nonfiction book will probably be the book that I review every month. I'm keeping the possibilities open for now. I'm still trying to figure this out, but I think and I know for some people that doesn't sound like a lot, but keep in mind I'm reading a lot and doing a lot of research for my dissertation. So I kind of try to divide the two areas in my mind to keep things straight. Like there's pleasure reading and then there's research reading, and the two are separate for me. And I like to keep it separate because my pleasure reading is part of my self-care routine. So I really want to dedicate more time to that because I read The Shining, Stephen King's Shining, in June while I was like resting and recuperating in my mother-in-law's house, and that was really, really nice, and I really enjoyed it. And so one fiction book and one nonfiction book per month, I think, is just the right amount of pleasure reading for me, and I want to share it with you. And so I'm thinking that during the last week of every month, I'll put out another poll here on the community tab on YouTube, and I'll also kind of use Instagram to allow people to vote for which book they would like me to read the following month and then review at the end of the month. And then at the beginning of every month, I announce what book it will be for that month. So, for example, let me put this down. For the month of August, you guys voted for Eastern Body, Western Mind. So this is the book that I will be reading in August, and I will have a review of it at the end of August. But at the beginning of August, I'm going to review Pregnant Darkness, Alchemy and the Rebirth of Consciousness. This is a book I bought back in March at the Phoenix and Dragon bookstore in Atlanta. And it took me a while to read through it because I was so busy preparing to move abroad. But I finally finished it, and I actually finished it on June 20th, which was my last full day in the United States. And I have to say, I mean, I'll definitely go into more detail later in the review video for this book, but this book came to me at the perfect time. It's what I needed to read to spiritually, mentally, emotionally prepare myself for this journey into the darkness, the pregnant darkness. So, a review of this book is coming in August. A review of Eastern Body, Western Mind is coming at the end of August. Be on the lookout toward the end of August for another vote, because I want to get you guys involved and to help me just be more part of the channel. So I figured a fun way to do that is to vote on what book I read and review every month. So let me know what you think about that idea. And also in August, I want to kind of post a video of some of the last days that I had in the US. I had the camera out and I recorded some stuff from where I grew up and some nostalgic kind of clips of the last few weeks of our lives in the United States. So I'll post that up too. So I think that brings everything to a close. Be on the lookout for those book reviews. Let me know what you think about my Witching Abroad series and what you would like to see me share on this platform of my experiences adapting to and living in Santiago, Chile. And before my computer battery dies, I think I'll leave it at that. So thank you guys for tuning in. It's good to be back. I'll be back soon. And hello from Chile. Bye.